And then I think it will be kind of a domino effect where suddenly business A and business B are settling via stable coins, and that will then have a knock-on effect and more people are doing it. Because it's one thing somebody having a stable coin based in Kazakhstan, but if their supplier in the UAE doesn't have a wallet to receive it, then that's where the next phase of infrastructure, I believe, needs to be built out. But we're super bullish on the whole space there.
Thank you, Reese. On the subject of stablecoins, if I could ask you a question, Vladimir, AFSA has issued a very detailed money services on digital assets and stablecoin regulated rule book. I think you allow 11 currencies to be backing assets for the stablecoins. Flowing on from what Reese said, what role does AFSA see stablecoins playing in cross-border payments and facilitating trade in general?
I have to very much agree with what Reese was saying, and again, I keep bringing examples from my career, but my first actually place of work after I graduated from university in Bulgaria was in the correspondent banking department of a largest at the time Bulgarian bank. So we were dealing with the payments all the time, and of course, they were taking to the US 4 or 5 working days. There were errors all the time because of the manual input at the time. Exporters are waiting for their money, or importers for confirmation of their goods. Anyway, it was a complicated, very complicated system, which actually hasn't changed that much over the years, with the exception of greater automation, of course, and digitalization of the formats of international payments. So the benefits that the stable coins offer to cross-border payments are obvious, right? Reducing transaction costs, the time could be instantaneous, as we all agree. Storage of wealth, yes, I can fully imagine that in an economy like Turkey. Also, we have to think about the availability of financial and payment services in underserved areas, which is something which is relevant for this broader part of the world. I'm not talking about Kazakhstan in particular, where digital payment services are ubiquitous, but overall in the space. So their role there is of course obvious and growing. We as a regulator, we support with our rulebook on stablecoins. It's quite detailed. So we want this environment as much as possible to flourish here, while of course maintaining the oversight over financial stability, AML, and compliance and security in the international space.
On that note, actually, if I may ask a follow-up question, what role do you see for regulatory collaboration between regulators to ensure that sort of one clarity of the market from an AML and KYC perspective, but also ensuring the constant fungibility of these stablecoins so that they can enable the trade that they can, or just the general sort of payments that they can enable?
The fungibility of stablecoins is a major benefit, right? Without it, actually, they don't serve their purpose. So it's very important as a characteristic, and to establish global or comparable standards in this space is equally important. We are very much involved and open to cooperate and collaborate with our partners, other regulators from various jurisdictions, and also in the supranational organizations such as IOSCO and the Financial Stability Board. I think, again, we all agree, it's still early days, but everybody's making an effort in the space, and we are getting there. I think we will be getting there, judging by the pace of change and the adoption, also on behalf of regulators that previously were, conservative and giving it approval. pushback. Now they're adopting. So the international collaboration in this area is crucial, and I think it will be only increasing to ensure the fungibility of the stablecoins.
Thank you. Reese, you've talked quite a bit about institutional adoption, and I think as we head into that sort of wider acceptance of digital assets, how important is it to have a safe and secure custody option? What should institutions be looking at when they're considering custody options for digital assets?
So, as I mentioned, a core part of our focus early on, it still remains, is payments. However, we've been working with large FIs for approaching 13 years now. And over the last probably 3-4 years, those same FIs were coming to us and saying, hey, look, we want to be able to offer digital assets, maybe to buy, sell, hold, or we want to tokenize assets. And really, we need a safe place to kind of store those assets, and they started talking about custody. Ripple, as an enterprise crypto solutions business, also hold crypto assets ourselves. So it's paramount to the safety and security of the digital assets that we hold, that we have a solid custody infrastructure. So then becomes the question: buy or build. And we went into the market a couple of years ago now and acquired a company called Metaco, Swiss-based custody infrastructure business, who, as Marwan kind of mentioned, was serving some of the largest banks globally. And really, what we wanted to do is be able to implement a custody solution that Ripple would benefit from directly, but that also our, FIs that we're already engaged with could also benefit from, and it had to be enterprise-grade custody in that sense. So there's a few considerations there. I think Marwan kind of touched on earlier, but I'll kind of rehash that. So when we were looking in the market, there are a number of solutions that may not fit the level of security that a large global FI will require. So hardware security modules was one of them. And if you're a large financial institution and you are stepping into a new world where you're offering, digital assets or digital asset kind of offering there, you want something that is fairly familiar with your teams internally to get that buy-in. So, they've been using HSMs for decades now. It's a core security function that kind of large FIs kind of be able to build upon. And actually what we found is that a number of the solutions that were in the market when we came to purchase didn't actually have that level or that kind of functionality. A lot of it was cloud. It then comes to the SaaS or the fully cloud versus on-prem solution. We wanted to be able to provide our customers with the optionality there. Now, Turkey, for example, they cannot have anything cloud. It has to be on-prem. So again, when you look at the market, having and giving our customers the functionality and the option to be able to adapt something that is within their regulatory framework, which provides that level of security when it comes to entering a new space, is absolutely paramount. You then look at the element of how the assets are stored, and cold storage is another element to really reduce that risk of anything happening to the assets. And again, when you look in the market, a number of solutions don't come with that functionality. So it's not until really you kind of dig into the details of A, what a financial institution needs to step into the space, B, what is going to make their security teams and board comfortable with stepping into a new space. And then C, as it relates to kind of the whole framework, it's governance. So banks will have various or different layers of governance within any form of technology that they implement. So being able to give FIs that flexibility to mirror the governance that they already have in place, to be able to implement something that is new and that is going to benefit and, as you quite rightly mentioned, move with the times, is key, and where we've seen a huge amount of success with some of the largest banks kind of trusting us and our technology to be able to do that. So there's a few, considerations as it related to Ripple itself. making that acquisition, and B, then being able to sell on custody, Ripple custody to our customers.
Perfect, thank you, Liz. Vladimir, if you could go back to the stablecoin regime or the stablecoin regulations that AFSA has issued. The part of it was focused on regulating commodity-backed stablecoins. What role does AFSA hope for commodity-backed stablecoins to play within the market, and then do you see this as a gateway for more real-world asset tokenization efforts in the future?
Definitely, as you, I'm sure, well know, Kazakhstan is a country very rich in natural resources and commodities. So it's only natural that we should think in that direction. We believe the inclusion of commodity-based stable coins to be a potential way forward to delivering more options in the digital asset landscape. Obviously, this will be based by real assets, which makes them more stable. These are tangible assets that people can identify and know what their really intrinsic value is. And the volatility associated with those is, well, of course, it's still there, but could be a lot more predictable and less pronounced than with those of digital assets, right? It's still early days. We are yet to see a viable project and stablecoin being launched to be based on commodities. The regime that we have definitely welcomes and allows this. So I only wish that we'll be able to test it sooner rather than later.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So to start wrapping things up, I'd like to hear from you, Reese. What is Ripple's sort of vision for the digital assets ecosystem and how Ripple can contribute to that? And then for the region, like what is Ripple's sort of ambitions here?
I think we're extremely excited about the space as a whole. If you think we've been playing in the space since 2012, for a large portion of that time, we didn't have that element of support from regulators, from FIs. I really feel like we're at a tipping point right now where suddenly the regulation is looking to keep up with the technology and innovation. So from a Ripple perspective, I think it's business as usual from our side, but really we're starting to see a huge amount of traction. I think we aim to be that full infrastructure provider across the market. So whether that is for cross-border payments, whether that is for stablecoin settlement on off-ramp, then if it is tokenization, providing that support to be able to do that on the XRP ledger, and then obviously with custody to be able to safely secure those assets. So from us, it's a fully kind of holistic approach where, and we're seeing that. We work with large FIs. They don't want the complexity of working with 5 different partners for 5 different elements of completely new technology to their business. It becomes quite problematic internally to be able to get that amount of buying and sign-off. So really that's, as I mentioned earlier, we're seen as the adults in the room when it comes to being able to provide that guidance, to be able to provide that strategy, and ultimately provide the solutions that are needed to take from 0 to 1, but then also beyond that to continue to build and evolve kind of the technology in terms of what their offering is. I think as it relates to this region specifically, and globally we've seen a number of regions make huge advancements as it relates to regulation and really kind of interest. I mean, UAE is one of them, Singapore, Europe as well. Having regulatory clarity and a framework in place that, to your point, Vladimir, may not be perfect to start with, but you'll iterate along the way, is much better than having nothing at all. And there still are a number of the regions that do not have anything, right? I would say the AIC and AFSA have done a phenomenal job in taking, the sandbox full through to having a framework. And actually, that sets you up very nicely from a Central Asia perspective, to gain that market, just like we saw the UAE across the Middle East. So I'm extremely excited about what's to come here. I think from our side, we're thrilled to be here, sitting here today, and actually the openness for a regulator to sit with, digital asset provider and infrastructure player shows how far the industry has come. Because a lot of these conversations and regulation and frameworks used to be done behind closed doors, and without any real input, without any real form of being able to learn actually how the technology can benefit it. So extremely excited for what's to come in Kazakhstan, and it's great to see the advancements.
Thank you. And then Vladimir, if I could, on that note, ask, what does the future of the digital assets rulebook and ecosystem hold for ABSA? What are you looking to next?
Yeah, thank you. It's been, again, the road that the strides that we've made so far have been significant, but we keep moving on. And a few things come to mind. I think decentralized finance platforms may be the next stop. They are popular. They are not yet regulated here, and we have to probably look into those to create a framework that will be again robust and aimed at the protection of investors and financial stability. Security-based tokens, security token offerings, I think also will be something that we'll be focusing on more and more as, again, the Kazakhstan economy is growing and needs more ways to fund itself. And I think AFC and AFSA provides the perfect platform for that. We need to kind of to find a suitable framework for this to proceed. I think the perennial topics along the way will be the cross-border collaboration with other regulators and the international regulatory bodies, with the global platforms and business leaders such as yourselves. Because in this dialogue we also learn quite a lot of new things. In fact, I had a very good conversation during the lunch break when one of our guests here said, you come to these events thinking that the main highlight will be the lunch, but in fact you always end up learning something new and useful. And the second I think red line will be the AML and counter-terrorist financing, which in everything that we do, and even within the relatively greater flexibility that we have in our regime, is something that needs to remain as a given, and with no compromise there.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for being so open and transparent, Vladimir. Thank you for your time, Reese. And thank you for putting the long and winding road in my head. I'm going to be honest tomorrow.
Oh, it's a nice song.
Tough luck for me. It is a nice song, I agree. I guess if you're okay with it, can you open the floor for some questions? Any questions for Vladimir and Reese? I think we've been very clear. Thank you again. Thank you very much.